Guy, you're looking. You first of all, you looking a little bit buffed out again today. What's
Got
going
my
on?
great T-shirt on. Got the
Oh, but
hair in a bit of a faux hawk.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I mean, it looks like you're filling that thing out pretty nicely.
You like that?
You know,
I
you
like
doing
that.
push-ups. You still have the bench in the garage.
It's
going,
so funny.
You know,
if I could figure out how to do it, I would show you. There actually is a bench in the garage.
Are the weights? Are they the plastic ones that were filled with concrete?
As a kid, I had those 100%.
Yeah,
and they had like the sprockets type thing, so you could put weights together and they wouldn't move.
You picked that bench up and that weight set at Corvettes.
Corvettes for sure. I mean, there was an Alexander's there on Central Avenue, if you remember. Not that Alexander's had that, but and then if you really want to go down, the Models was like
you had to go to Moe's or Herman's in the Galleria Mall, which I think we've talked about.
It's so funny you mentioned Herman's. I just came across a canister of racquetballs.
Racquetballs, of course. Is that when Wayne Grimnich was?
We've talked about Wayne Grimnich twice now in a couple weeks. That's twice more than it's been in the last 40 years. He probably hasn't said his name.
The exact circa of the superstars, of Corvettes, of Herman's, of your dilapidated weight bench. There was a band that everybody knows. The band Yes was probably in their prominence. And again, Yes was one of those bands, a little bit like maybe not Steely Dan, maybe a King Crimson. That one of these really involved, musically, obscenely talented bands that you almost couldn't say you didn't like because it meant you didn't really understand music.
See, that's the highbrow musician in you. I will tell you flat out, yes, I was not a Yes fan. I mean, how many times can you listen to Roundabout? I mean, it makes you effing crazy.
Okay,
so let's not pretend. I'm not gonna get all. I'm sure they're musically each geniuses, but the collective top 100 bands, Yes is. I just say no to Yes.
You say no to Yes. I see what you did there. Yes was also one of those bands that there were so many permutations of the Yes band members.
Anderson, Buford,
Wakeman, and Howe. Asia. Remember Asia? I mean, they were the super group like that was put together. And they weren't even from Asia.
What was that? Heat of the Moment.
Heat of the Moment. Heat of the Moment. And so all right, so
82. I mean, that song. Now you think about that. I mean, that's
used to dance
9 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I'm going somewhere with this. Where are the Yes? Rattle off the Yes album names if you can remember any of them. Maybe you can't.
No, help me.
One had a kind of a racy cover. It had a picture of a nude dude from the back. You just saw ass cheeks. It's just like a guy staring at a building, right? Remember that one? So all right. So they had, I believe they had the ones I can remember, Going for the One, Tormato, and then I think their biggest album was Yes, Fragile. That's right.
So
you know where I'm going with this. You know where I'm going with this. So
the market's fragile. Is the market fragile?
But the market's not fragile. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. But before we talk about the fragility of the market that 2 weeks ago, everybody thought was being driven off a cliff because of higher multiples and higher rates and inflation, and the Fed was actually ready to step back. But before we go there, I mean, I'm just got to ask you, how are you guys feeling? The roller coaster of emotions in the Bronx when Corey Kluber pitches a no, and then has to pull himself out after the third inning after a twinge in the shoulder. Talk to me about that.
No, it's problematic. Obviously, I know we have Luis Severino, though. We have some guys down on the farm that we probably. Clark Schmidt might be joining us soon.
Wow. Don't even know who he is.
I would be more concerned, and I am concerned.
Yes,
but the Yankees, playing basically 700 balls since that 6-11 start. But I heard that Thor had some issues in his first rehab.
Well, actually, Thor, who's a friend and a big commercial break follower, and an important part of this Mets team, especially this year, had a 1-inning rehab start down at Single A Lucy, and I believe after an inning had some tenderness. I'm going to call it tenderness in the elbow, the same elbow that he had a Tommy John surgery on last year.
No, look. But you know what I find? You know what? I watched the Met game last night because the Yankees were getting smoked. The Yankee game. Again, the Yankees. I mean, your guy Steven Matz was just throwing darts.
I mean, and again, if that guy was in the Mets rotation now, we might not be so worried about Noah. But he's you know what? That guy's a head case. He couldn't pitch in New York. He's from New York. He needs to go to Toronto to pitch. I love Toronto.
Can I tell you something? He was the next coming of Jerry Kuzman that first start when he went like 3 for 4, and every Met fan was like, Steven. You know what I find really great about the Mets as a franchise? Tony Tarasco, who's on the list, he can't pitch. He's coaching first base for the Mets. And I'm like, you know what? That's really, what a great teammate. He can't get on the hill, but he can coach first base. So that's a great job.
Remind me again, who is Tony Tarasco?
It's a guy they got from the Tribe in the Lindor trade.
Oh yeah.
Carrasco. And it's also the first base coach of the Mets. Isn't it or no? Am I mixing those guys up?
You're intentionally mixing them up. You do this all the time. It's funny. It's funny when you do it. I chuckle when you refer to Star Wars as ET and that kind of thing. But Tony Tarasco is the guy that was trying to catch that ball that Jeffrey Mayer snatched for Homer back in the day. And he is now the first base coach for the Mets.
So they're two different people.
They're two different people. Just so you know. Just so you know. All right. So fragility in the rotation in the Bronx and in Flushing and maybe still in the market, but what happened to the market dynamics? VIX plunging another, 7 or 8% today. VIX now sub 18. And people have suddenly forgotten about the Fed having to begin to quote unquote normalize, or there's no taper tantrum here. We're getting through earnings season. Earnings are pretty strong. What's going to knock this market down, guy? Because high multiple tech's rallying today like it's July and we're getting some headwinds about vaccines, and it means Peloton can rally another 9%. And outside of obviously the buff videos that you watch on your Peloton bike, at some point, we grew tired of this story, and yet this stuff's rallying today. So why is this happening?
It's remarkable. I wish I could give you an answer, because the things that we're concerned about a week or so, 2 weeks, they really haven't abated. I mean, yields have backed off to this 1.55, 1.56, but everything else is still there. But the market, again, just shrugging it all off. I thought, and we talked about it on Fast Money last night, I thought the comments out of James Gorman, who's the CEO of Morgan Stanley, were really, I don't know where I think I know where they came from. It doesn't really matter. But he's basically, the Morgan Stanley economists see a taper sometime next year, and then a raising rates sometime in 2023. Gorman comes out seemingly out of nowhere and says, this is not consensus. This is not our view at Morgan Stanley. But I think the Fed's going to taper sometime this year, and you see a rate hike early next year, which I found to be fascinating. And you wonder what he's setting himself up for. And that comes in the heels of sort of the Stan Druckenmiller stuff. So again, all of it's out there. Market doesn't care. And your point about the VIX being sub 18, having gone north of 24 at one point, I think last week or so, it's remarkable.
Well, it's remarkable. And as long as liquidity is there, I think the market's going to look past this stuff. And as much as we every night have to spend a lot of time, I wouldn't say we're overanalyzing, but we're peeling back layers of the onion. We're looking for something different every night to try to highlight good and bad. And we're not trying to create problems. We're not trying to say everything's perfect. The point is that for the last, the better part of the last 10 months, and actually, you know what, I'll point to a year ago, maybe even to this day, we'd be doing a Fast Money where people started talking about this great rotation into banks. And that's been a good trade largely, but there've been times where that rotation reversed field and we went back into the mega cap tech land, or then we went to valuing, over growth names, et cetera, et cetera. The market's just in one process of churning, and it's churning higher. I ultimately think until the Fed changes gears, and we don't know what that is, but as we change gears to get out of here, Yes is a band from the 70s that you say no to.
I'm sorry,
but everybody's got that band from the 70s that they realize wouldn't hold up today. You need to give me one. I'm giving you a second to think about that while tell you.
Doobie Brothers. There you go. To you.
Seals and Crofts. Seals and Crofts, man. I mean. Yeah, get
are
closer,
they a band or are they
That's a great
act?
point. They were, they were an act, kind of like Captain and Tennille were an act.
Just throwing it out there.
You just completely disparaged my band. I'm going to come up with a better one. Folks on the internet, give us your best 70s band that you're a little embarrassed to admit to today, because the Doobies, by the way, and I'm coming after you yacht rockers. You know what? Michael McDonald ruined that band. They were a good band in the 70s and they lost it in the 80s. Guy, I'll see you tomorrow.